Sometimes, one gun isn't enough. Reginald here. The Hive Scum class comes with several neat new toys to play with. Fun guns that finally explore some of the lesser known details of the 40k universe, including the humble M1911. After 40,000 years and 2 million world wars, the holy light of St. Moses Browning now shines on tertium. Purpose in kit. A multi-tool ranged weapon with a bend towards specialist and light elite sniping. These weapons represent the middle point between the autogun and the Zeruna revolver. They're fast moving and reload quickly, which can provide you with a high uptime specialist removal solution. They're also not bad into groups of shooters or blowing down the occasional light elite either. If something is far away or you have a little extra time, they make excellent sniping tools with the special spin. This gives you lots of options, and that's a key function of these weapons. Basics. These pistols have a hip fire mode, a more accurate braced fire mode while holding alt fire, and a special action, which stylishly spins the gun. This contracts your aim to a near pinpoint, and boosts your stagger power and amps the finesse even higher than the already solid numbers. If you snag a headshot with this, it does fantastic damage. I call this spin shot for short. A big part of this weapon is understanding that it has middling to good accuracy depending on the blessings, and most of the damage is in headshots. You are hunting for heads, but you are not always going to get them. Real quick, I have a tutorial going live for every weapon on Hive Ganger, build guides for high difficulty content, and a bunch of other great content as well. So take 1 second and subscribe to my channel and leave a comment to please the Emperor. Thanks. Build recommendations. Here are the stubs I have selected after many solo damnation and Auric games, as well as some Havoc 40 games. Modifiers. For both marks, the ideal stats distributions are 80s in everything except mobility. Perks. For this weapon, we are going to focus on what this gun is good at and mostly disregard what it is useless at. We're not really going to be shooting monsters or unyielding with this too often, and it's very poor into carapace for that matter unless there's a lot of brutalness around. That leaves us with unarmored, maniacs, flak, and infested. The core targets we care most about are scab and drag troopers, and gunner type elites as well as specialists. So flak and maniacs is the way to go then. Unarmored isn't necessary in my experience, and the only thing with infested armor type worth shooting with these is dogs, and the spin shot does that really well. Blessings. Let's talk about blessings. Like my other videos, I am going to rank order these. Fair warning, this pool doesn't get too exciting. A tier blessings. Run and gun. This class likes to move, and with the improved accuracy, shoot from hip fire, and damage is not missed on these weapons. I always take this, actually, but as a blessing, it's just not good enough to be an S tier. It's maybe the best blessing on the gun, though. Pinning fire is another obvious choice. These guns actually have pretty low stagger, so I really achieve maximum stacks, but it's also one of the only ways to buff weapon damage. So, the special spin shot has high stagger, actually, and that can be used to start a chain of stagger of at least 1 stack when you first hit something. Powder burn. I find the suppression on these roughly as easy to trigger as the stagger. It's been hard to decide if I get more value out of powder burn or pinning fire on these. Try both, figure out what you like. Desperado. This class can amp a lot of crit, and these guns have high finesse, so the Desperado blessing, not to be confused with the Desperado ability, can go very well on this weapon. The 6-second duration should last plenty long to give you what you need to get a lot of crit hits before your next reload. This class is constantly dodging and sliding around to avoid getting pasted, so it's a natural fit. B tier. Sustained fire. This has a natural place on the weapon with spin shot, hip fire, follow-up hits out to 4. It lets you use this more as a sniping tool with consistent reliable damage on those 2nd through 4th hits. However, it can't be used to chain spin shots together. In my experience, there's better options, and the damage bump is noticeable but not really a breakpoint maker. Raking fire. This class does have the ability to reduce aggro, so there is space here to run this and get behind targets. And the finesse damage is really high, so especially in focus mode, you could use this to do something like burst down at Beast of Nurgle. However, there is a difference between wowie, that's neat, and this is good and reliable, and it's the former, not the latter. C tier. Crucian Roulette. Listen, it's not useless, but this is like a 14-ish shot ranged weapon set. It takes you 10 of those shots to get to 20% crit chance buff. Are you really gonna take this over one of the ones in A or B? Like maybe if you're full crit building, but otherwise, nah. Hit and run. On its face, with how this class actually plays in high difficulty, there's value here. The problem is it's 1 second of value on an inconsistent basis on a weapon that reloads a lot. Avoiding range damage is cool when it's consistent, and it's scary when it's not. And I don't like to gamble with my health bar that way because it's not very big. Born in Blood. Much the same as Hit and Run, I see value because this class is squishy, but also kinda inconsistent. It might be good if you're a more rookie player and struggling to get back your resources. Terrifying Barrage. This is hard to pin down for me. On the one hand, suppressing scary targets is really good on this class, plus you could stack Powder Burn more easily with that, but that requires you to not have run and gun, which feels like a really bad idea. Plus the condition is getting a kill, not just blasting at bad guys, so I feel it's too finicky. Speed load. Okay, listen, faster reload is good, but you can get it from the talent tree. So do you really want to lose out on something good for a blessing like this? Maybe if you're specifically running a Desperado type build where you're trying to reload often and that 15% you're getting from the tree and the stim bonus you're getting isn't enough, but personally I don't think that's going to be the case. Attack patterns. Now typically I try to provide a swing pattern guide for melee weapons. Well, this is a gun, but it has attack patterns you can use, namely this one, spin shot into hip fire. The hip fire is still highly accurate after a spin shot and usually center point accurate, so for targets like gunners, it is possible to spin into hip fire and double tap rapidly. This can be great because the breakpoint, even when unbuffed, at least in Damnation, is right at about 1 headshot into 1 body shot. In Havoc, of course, things are a little harder. Key breakpoints. It is actually possible with these weapons to get to various one-shot breakpoints on Scab and Trey Gunners. However, I usually like these pistols the most, not in dedicated range builds, but as a quick draw backup weapon to melee builds. In those builds, you most commonly need 1 spin shot headshot into Auric Gunners with a follow-up body shot. This is conditional on the available buffs, but it's good to know where the line is on Shoot It Again. Obviously, breakpoints are going to be different in Havoc, but I can't test those because my mods aren't working. Weapon ranking. Okay, so normally I try to compare the weapons to other marks in the set, but that doesn't exist here. Instead, I want to explain where these weapons land in the metagame. These are not insane powerhouse weapons. They are solid, middle-of-the-road, high flexibility, high uptime sniping tools. You can use them to make an assault on shooters or pop specialists with solid reliability. Technically, you can shoot hordes because they have a little cleave, but like, why? So what they're really for is sniping with flex into shooters. They serve the exact same function as the revolvers. They're actually pretty good at it too. While there's going to be a temptation to run these as mainstay weapons with Desperado and a bunch of range buffs, I haven't found that I can get away with that in Havoc because the damage output is just not quite there. It's not bad, but I have to reload a lot. As with most things, they are fine into Oryx as a mainstay, but in Havoc they are sidearms to a melee build. They are reliable and valuable and entirely as useful as taking a revolver, and they have great flavor too. Did I say revolver enough times? They're a side grade to the revolver. Got it? My thoughts on this as a class weapon. Initially, I was admittedly very disappointed. It's not that I don't want a stub automatic in the game, but as a class exclusive, it seems naturally lackluster. However, the more I have used this weird hybrid gun that is a cross between the Mars Automatic and the M1911, and as a melee enjoyer myself in general, the more they have really grown on me as a sidearm. There is a lot of player expression available in these weapons. They have something akin to combos. They can be used in a number of different ways. It's a very flexible and responsive weapon with a ton of flash and pizzazz. Also, I've been wanting to spin my revolver for like 2 years now, and they gave me a button that spins the guns whenever I want. I use these in a lot of my builds right now, but they don't seem oppressively OP either, at least so far as I've experienced. So I think it's safe to say they're my favorite gun on the class, and they have a good place in the overall metagame balance, but they are probably A tier and not the best option. Just really solid. Polish. Since these weapons are new, I thought I'd enrich this guide a bit more with a discussion on their polish. The sound design on these weapons is excellent, with slightly metallic, pitch shallow reports that make sense for a handgun of this caliber. There is a bit of bass in here that you can find that makes the gun sound extra chunky inside, but it tends to wash out in open spaces. I also really like the bang whiz effect of the special shot, which reminds me a lot of when I was 18 and took my first rifle to the range. You see, the zero was off and I was shooting at 60 yards. They had steel frames for the target holders. The bullet hit the steel frame and caromed off into the sky somewhere, while making nearly the same whizzing noise. Very nostalgic. In terms of animations, you may have noticed some tweening issues in my footage. Barring any last-minute fixes, it seems like there's a moderately frequent issue where after the spin shot into hipfire combos, one of the guns won't take its rightful place when bracing or hip-firing additional shots, and one of the guns may not always actually animate firing. I will say this isn't particularly noticeable in game, and I only noticed it in post. Lastly, in terms of implementation of the akimbo mechanic, I think it's a bit sad that all we get is effectively one gun with spicy animations. In real terms, there's nothing mechanically different about this weapon than using any other semi-auto gun. Everything is synced up or alternated such that it never matters. I would have liked to have seen the ability to shoot each gun with right or left mouse rather than a braced mode, or equally good to me would have been using the brace mode to fire both barrels simultaneously rather than in an alternate fashion. Hypothetically, this could have given a more impactful shot with more damage. Ultimately, however, the feel of the weapons, the breakpoints, the utility, and the animations are all excellent, and a few minor issues that will be ironed out eventually really don't bother me. I just am not the guy to care. This weapon sells well to me the experience of using it, and it is a great addition to Darktide, and I'm very happy that we all get to play with them together. But wait, Reginald, your thumbnail has unyielding damage at 3400 DPS. How did you do that? Well, you're going to need one of these. You're going to need the talent tree that looks something like this. You're going to need a stim that looks like this. You're going to use spin shots to trigger all of your pinning fire. Then you're going to pop all of your abilities, stim, and spin shot twice into the head of the Reaper. It's a bit cumbersome to get this kind of value out of the weapon, but you can do it. Outro. Thank you all for visiting. I hope you're enjoying the work I've put in to deliver useful guides on all the new stuff so that you can party hard on launch day, if you decide to pick up the class anyway. Warm regards, Reginald. It's very important to me to take a moment and recognize the people who have been supporting my channel all this time. Thank you so much to a rando dude and Joseph Davidson for your significant contribution to this channel and its longevity. As Oathmaker level members, you guys have done a lot for this channel. Also to Monolith for becoming my first Savant level member and also inventing the whole level. I really appreciate that a lot. Here's your Comic Sans. And to Fluff, Zimisk3, and Monolith Mask for your support as added level members. You know how much this means to me, and I really appreciate it. Lastly, but not leastly, to everyone else who has supported my channel, and especially to Vinny for your continued support of my streams. Thank you so much. The channel would not be the same without all of you supporting it, and I'm really, really grateful. I look forward to continuing to try and cover interesting topics on this channel, and I've got plenty of stuff kind of lined up that I'd like to do. So thanks so much, everyone.